Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if this is your first time seeing one of my videos. Hi, we've never been introduced. My name's Avery. So if you have been watching the channel for a little bit, you may have remembered a few weeks ago when I did a video on that Hardy Boys Nancy Drew TV show that was on in the 70s and was really strange and didn't make any sense. And because the show operates in a alternating between Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew format, where like one episode is about the Hardy Boys and one episode is about Nancy Drew, the video that I already made was only about the first episode. The episode was dealing with the Hardy Boys specifically and them solving a case. So I decided that now would be a pretty good time to follow up, make a second video to that first video. If you want to see it, you don't really have to because the episodes aren't connected anyway, but you can click on this and go see it up there. Hey, look at that, I'm a cool fancy YouTuber and I know how to do title cards now. But today we're going to be talking about the second episode in that series. This one deals solely with Nancy Drew, so I didn't want to leave my girl hanging. We already made a video about the Hardy Boys, and now we're going to make a video about Nancy Drew because I'm a big Nancy Drew fan, and this episode is equally as hilarious as the Hardy Boys one, so... Well, I mean, this episode of TV is pretty hilarious. I can't make any promises for this video. I hope you like it, but, you know. So the episode opens up with Nancy, her friend George, and Ned, who is like... I don't know, he's like kind of her boyfriend in the books, I guess. They're all at a party together. That's the start of this episode.
Ned, why don't you just tell her she turned your brains into a souffle and be done with it?
George, you say something?
Your mistake was to become friends. It's the wrong approach.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack there. Two things I'm learning. Number one is that George gives terrible dating advice. Imagine if somebody told you that they, you know, had feelings for you that way. I know we've been... you know, hanging out for a long time and, you know, you're one of my best friends, but I just, you know, I really need to tell you, you know, you turn my brains into souffle. And second of all, something that I'm learning that will be reinforced over and over again in this episode is that Ned is kind of an asshole. He's kind of a jerk.
She thinks of you as a big brother. If you want my advice, you should...
You think I'm hung up on Nancy? I work for her father. With Mr. Drew out of town, I just feel responsible, that's all.
I don't like the implication that Nancy can't take care of herself. I mean, she's definitely the smartest person in the room, and most definitely smarter than Ned in particular, so I don't think she needs his help for much of anything.
Brandon's gonna show me his new ski boat. You guys wanna come?
Ski boat, well, it's too cold,
Well, it's a big moon. With any luck, we should be able to spot a few fine fish.
Well, I really don't think
we wouldn't miss it. Let's go.
So after convincing Ned, who's a big scaredy cat, they all go out boating.
Something's wrong.
You're darn right. It's cold.
Slow down. Brandon, could you stop the boat a minute?
And while Ned's bitching about how cold it is, Nancy's just like, shut up, I found a clue.
Nancy, you see a flying fish?
I think so. Only he isn't flying.
Look at that wingspan.
Wow, they really fly.
A bunch of dead fish. Oh, that kind of creeps me out, I'm not gonna lie. And right after that, they all realize that the lights in the lighthouse are on, which shouldn't be because the lighthouse is private property and should be vacant. So in teen detective style, they all rush off to try to stop a bunch of vandals. I don't know how we jumped from somebody is in the lighthouse without permission to they're vandalizing the place, but anyway.
You call the sheriff, Brandon. We're gonna drive out to the lighthouse.
Hey, what about me?
I'll tell you all about it tomorrow. Great party, Brandon. Come on, Nance.
Yeah, great party, thanks for inviting us, but also piss off, we have to go see a lighthouse now.
Good evening, Sheriff.
Morning's more like it. All right, what's all this nonsense about vandals?
Well, we all saw a light coming out of the tower.
This tower is built of brick and mortar. Does everybody see that?
I can't see much of anything, to be honest with you.
There is no place on that tower where anybody could climb up to those windows.
Sheriff.
Further, none of the windows seems to be busted. We're not talking about a ghost, are we?
We saw a light.
You do what you like. Your father manages the property. But you wait until morning.
Didn't he just say it was morning? You can't complain about being out early in the morning and then tell somebody that they can't do something because they have to wait until morning. That's not logical, Sheriff.
My job, but I prefer to do it in civilized hours.
Well, I guess that's that.
You going home?
Yeah.
So the sheriff isn't helpful, Ned isn't helpful, so they just head back home.
Ned, there was nobody to meet me at the airport. Where were you? And where's Nancy?
I've been looking for her, too.
Why? What's wrong?
Well, nothing's wrong. Exactly.
So Ned tattles on Nancy to her dad.
Well, you know Nancy, if she thinks there's some sort of mystery to solve. Well, don't worry. I'm gonna go out there and straighten her out.
That's a great comfort to me, Ned.
And they talk about her like she's a child and can't make her own decisions.
This is gonna take forever.
Oh, I don't care for that sound, jeez. So while George just tries to straight up break into the lighthouse, Nancy goes off investigating on her own and finds a bunch of random tire tracks. Meanwhile, George has gotten the lock off.
Voila! Entree.
Me first, huh?
You're the detective. I'm just a locksmith.
Locksmith sounds a little sophisticated for what you did, George. I don't know. I'm not a locksmith. Maybe that's how locksmiths work.
I'd settle for a flashlight.
You have one in the car?
Glove compartment.
I'll get it.
And they get freaked out by a bunch of bats.
It's just a bat.
Oh, a bat, Nancy. Vampires are only bats. I quit.
Well, vampires are... I guess they can kind of turn into bats, but like... vampires aren't real, George. But Nancy's not deterred. She keeps pressing on. And then while George is off standing on the edge of a cliff by herself, she meets this guy in the creepiest way possible.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to startle you. I'm Jack Wald, Professor Wald, the new owner.
You didn't mean to startle her, then why did you get that close? Why did you sneak up like that? You can't just sneak up on somebody, almost push them off a cliff, and then just be like, oh, I didn't mean to scare you.
You almost fell.
And whose fault would that be? So it turns out this guy owns the lighthouse, or has just bought the lighthouse, and he's hitting on Nancy in a very strange way.
Did you know your lighthouse came with a ghost?
I'd have demanded my money back if it hadn't.
Look, it's my responsibility to see that the lighthouse is in acceptable shape for you to sign off our trusteeship, Professor.
And Ned's only trying to get involved because he also wants to date Nancy. Poor Nancy, she's got a lot going on right now.
It'll make placing my equipment a lot easier.
What equipment?
Monitoring devices for locating timid ghosts.
You're gonna spend the night in here?
It's my work. Hopefully, I won't be alone.
So the professor is a ghost hunter, and he invites all of them back, but especially Nancy, to come and ghost hunt with him that night in the lighthouse.
Well, I don't know if I'd go so far as to call the professor a rat, but he sure does move fast.
Now, Ned, you stay out of this. You're not exactly unbiased, you know.
And neither are you.
Yeah, shut up, Ned.
Besides, I'm not going alone. George is coming with me.
Me? I'm going.
Chicken.
This book's Lost Treasures of the World.
Yes. Well, a student of mine found this book in a small store in Carmel, California. He brought a chapter of it to my attention. A chapter on a haunted lighthouse. The caves were the private vault of a pirate who sailed these coastal waters in the later 1700s.
So now we find out that this ghost hunter man has accidentally discovered potential pirate's treasure. And Nancy's like, ghosts and pirate treasure, hell yeah.
George, didn't the professor say that a student gave him this book and that he's been looking for the lighthouse for 3 years?
Yes, why?
This book was checked out of a Los Angeles library last June.
Is something burning around here? Oh, it's just the professor's pants, because they're on fire. So Nancy figures out that the professor's a filthy liar, but they still decide to go and spend the night ghost hunting with him.
Nancy. Nancy!
And then they start to hear a bunch of ghost noises, and everyone's concerned except for Nancy, who's like, I wasn't born this morning.
Ghosts of the lost galleons who haunt the tower on the cliff, be gone.
Aha! Busted.
What's going on?
My guess is the professor is hunting for treasure, and he didn't want anybody to know about it.
Why not? It's his property.
Yes, but it's not final. Your young friend Ned decided to get fancy when he was drawing up the sale papers in her father's absence. He threw in a clause excluding all rights under the ground.
Don't you hate it when the guy who likes the girl whose dad is trying to sell you property gets fancy?
I'll sell you the property for double the original price.
Double.
And my client gets 10% of anything you find.
I have a feeling if I'd been up front with you when I first got here, you'd have sold it to me for the original price, including all rights.
That's correct.
Life lessons.
When it comes to looking for gold, try to be the one that sells the pick and shovels. That's the only sure way to get rich.
I'll remember that. So Nancy still has some questions, so she goes back out to the lighthouse, and Ned's with her, and they find a cave, and then they also find a whole bunch of exposition.
My guess is that we're looking at an opening that's been sealed up, and now somebody's blown it open.
An explosion like that would have been heard for miles.
Isn't this low tide?
Yeah, but... Oh, I get it. Well, that cave entrance would be deep underwater during high tide, and no one would hear an underwater explosion.
That would account for all the dead fish. They were killed by concussion.
Fish murderer.
You mean us go in that hole?
You know a better way to get to the bottom of this?
The bottom of what? I mean, we don't even know where that goes.
There's only one way to find out.
So Nancy convinces Ned to go into the cave, even though he's really terrified of the cave. And also, high tide is about to hit, so maybe he has a point. I don't mean to be so hard on Ned. He does have some good points sometimes.
That door doesn't look 18th century.
It's not. It's 20th century. Around 1930.
What an obscure and helpful thing to know, Ned.
It's okay.
How is
It's all right. I don't know. It's long gone.
It's not long gone. It's still right there. It's a skeleton. It's not going to move, Ned. Meanwhile, Mr. Professor Lying Pants, he's up to no good. I don't know what he's up to, but I know that it is, in fact, no good.
Is that the tide?
It sure is. If we don't get through there now, we're never gonna get out.
I say we keep going.
But what if we get trapped?
Well, you said it yourself. There has to be another way to the lighthouse. This is the only tunnel we found. This has to be it.
So the tide's coming in. They're stuck in a cave. They're very close to drowning.
This door must be watertight. I don't feel anything getting past.
And they get to a secret door that leads to where the professor is looking for treasure. And we find out that not only is he just down with lying to everybody, but he's also cool to just let Ned and Nancy drown. He's not going to let them out.
Nancy! Where are you?
Ned, you're not going to believe this.
Ned, I found a treasure! Oh, that's cool. It's not like I'm about to drown. My life is in your hands and time is ticking, but you go on. Congratulations on finding that treasure.
I'm not gonna be!
You all right?
Yeah, a little damp. You got here just in time.
I hate to think what would have happened if I got here a minute later.
The professor is, and I cannot stress this enough, the worst.
Where is she? She went through a hole in the ceiling.
What?
I'm here.
So they found the treasure. It looks like Professor's gonna get a lot of money from it.
Well, it looks like the perfect ending.
Guess it's a perfect ending. And then George makes a new discovery.
Well, they had the same treasure book the professor showed us. I used the library photocopier to duplicate that chapter. Now look at the map. You'll notice something pretty peculiar.
They're not the same.
Right.
Whoa! Wait, what does that mean? I'm still confused.
Well, you rewrote history and put your own chapter into that textbook. That was to give credibility for us finding the treasure.
Nancy, we did find the treasure.
We found a treasure, but I think you planted it there.
So it turns out that the treasure was fake, and Professor planted it there and made up the whole thing about pirates' treasure, because what it really is like money that he obtained illegally somehow. And this is just like his very elaborate way of money laundering, I guess. And of course, Nancy tells him that she knows all of this while they're alone in the lighthouse together.
Who knows you came out here?
Everybody.
No. They never would have let you come.
Don't do it. It's not worth it.
I don't want to, Nancy. Believe me.
Nancy, don't run towards the cliff. That's a bad idea.
I didn't want any of this, but they were watching me. Nancy, I got away with $2 million. Parachuted into a forest, broke both my legs. Sat alone in a cave and mended myself back into shape. Then, when I came out, I couldn't spend a dime.
Well, after that very dramatic story of explanation, Nancy's life is saved just in time before she goes over the cliff and dies.
George told us that you'd rush back out here, and about the book.
This young lady took a big chance confronting the professor.
She's always taking chances. She seems to think she's some sort of detective.
I've been on this case 3 years. She isn't bad.
I've been on this case for 3 years, and this girl solves it in like 2 days all by herself without any of the resources that I or my team have. She's not bad at investigating.
Thanks a lot for the dinner, Mr. Drew.
Listen, Ned, I owe you a lot more than the dinner for getting Nancy out of that fix.
Did Ned get her out of a fix? I mean, George called the cops, but Ned was there, I guess.
How did you figure that one out, Nancy?
Elementary, my dear Ned. First, I removed a small coin from this old antique to buy the morning paper. And I read the professor's full confession.
And on that note, the case is solved, and it's a happy ending for everyone. I think everyone. Ned's kind of still upset that Nancy's not dating him. But, you know. I really found it funny how much the writers of the show apparently did not like Ned. You know, because Ned in the books and, you know, in the games and, you know, anything else Nancy Drew related media, Ned's never really, you know, front and center or anything, but they really just made him super unlikable in this particular show, and it's just really, really funny to me. But that's it for this video, guys. I hope you liked it. Thank you all so much for watching, liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing. Anything you do to support this channel is so important to me. Remember, my name is Avery. I'm a YouTuber if you say so, because thanks to you guys, this is technically a YouTube channel. Bye!